Metro District abuse in Colorado, the myths. This is one in a series of videos that addresses the myths published by the industry regarding metro districts, and in this case we're going to talk about the myth that the bond investors, not the homeowners, but the bond investors, are the ones who bear the ultimate risk of loss. I'm going to do it two ways. We've got a diagram to lay the background or the context, and then look at several documents that help tell the story. First, the diagram. My 4- and 2-year-old grandchildren have been teaching me to draw, so with their help, here is the background. We have 3 players. We have the developer / district board, we have the bond investors, and we have the residents. The developer, also the district board, until the residents take control of the board, enters into an agreement with himself and says to the bond investors, hey, if I enter into an agreement with myself to obligate these folks to pay you a lot of money, will you pay me a lot of money? And they say, sure. So the developer / district board enters into an agreement and votes to sell bonds to the bond investors. And the bond investors pay a lot of money to the developers. The developer district board gives the bill to the residents, and they pay the bond investors money. At some point, the developer leaves, takes his money, and cashes out, leaving the resident taxpayers paying a lot of money to the bond investors in exchange for what the bond investors paid to the developer before they left. So, as between the residents and the bond investors, who's on the hook if something goes wrong? Well, here's what the industry says about that. In a guest column they wrote for the Denver Gazette, published January 10th. A second fallacy is the idea of Metro District financial risk being transferred to homeowners. No, they say. The homeowners don't have this risk. It's the bond investors. The homeowners, they say, are protected by the service plans, and if anything goes wrong, the bond investors lose, not the homeowners. That's a myth. Let's look at the documents. What I'm showing you now are excerpts from the bond prospectuses. These are the documents that outline the legal relationship between the districts, the residents, and the bond investors. And there are 2 things going on here. First of all, let's talk about those limits that the industry says are there to protect the homeowner. This is standard language in a bond. It says, if the residents in District 3 don't generate enough tax revenue to pay the scheduled principal and interest that's due on the bonds, that's okay. The principal will continue to bear interest, and the unpaid interest will continue to compound until it reaches the limit that, quote, protects the residents. And what's that limit? $4.9 billion on a debt that was about $37 million. $4.9 billion is the protective limit that protects the residents from paying too much money on a bill that started out as $37 million. And they go on to say that as long as the residents in the district continue to pay that principal and compounding interest until they pay $4.9 billion, hey, everything's okay. That's the protection that the industry is talking about. And if the homeowners, if the district can't pay for whatever reason, the bond investors know what to do. The bond prospectus, prepared by the developers, tells the investors the way that they protect their investment is by imposing a lien on the property. This provision says the district shall be required to cooperate and do everything necessary to work with the county treasurer to enforce a lien on unpaid taxes. And the bond prospectus goes on to say, the duty to pay is not on the people, but it's on the property, and the way to enforce the payments is through a lien and foreclosure on the property, your home. So, if everything goes wrong, if the payments aren't made, who loses? Does the bond investor lose? No. The bond investor is protected, and that's why they love these Metro District bonds. The bond investor is protected by your property. You will do everything possible to avoid losing your home. They know that. That's why this is such a good investment. But if you can, if something goes wrong, who loses? The bond investor or you? Where's the risk of loss? On the bond investor or you? Putting a lien and foreclosing on your house makes it very clear what the answer is. The risk of loss is on the homeowner, not the bond investor. Another myth published by the industry.